Ladies. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And welcome to Faith at Work 2020. If you could please take your seats. Our program will begin in just a few moments. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats. Our program will begin in just a few moments. Again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you could please take your seats. Our program will begin in just a few moments. Please remember to silence your cell phones for our program. Again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you please take your seats. Our program will begin in just a few moments. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you could please take your seats. We are going to begin our program here in just a few moments.
Good evening. Hello. Good evening. Sorry to interrupt your conversations, and I promise you'll have more chances. Well, it's wonderful to welcome you all here this evening. We know that there's some people stuck on airplanes, and we've reserved some tables over here for them as they come in. But so glad that you are all here. I'm Brian Grimm, president of the Religious Freedom and Business Foundation, and this is, I mean, we're having a conference, but it's a celebration that something big is happening in the United States, in our country, and it's thanks to what's going on in your companies. Your companies are, and we'll talk more about your companies as the night goes on, but embracing faith within the company, faith and belief, including the freedom to not have a belief. So religious freedom is for all, for anyone. It's a value that all can value. So tonight I'll be serving as MC. I'll have a few comments a little bit later. But I want to start by first thanking the Catholic University of America and the Bush School of Business for Now, all of you coming from corporate environments realize that a university like this, as you've seen, it's beautiful. It's a fabulous, fabulous university, not just the buildings, but what's inside of them. And just in November, Dina Bella and I had a meeting just to get acquainted. And we started talking, and I thought we might think of some things to do together. And I just started to talk about what's going on in your companies. And it was news. Of course, we have reporters who are reporting on this because it's news. Nobody knew. In my faith tradition, and I'm Catholic, you've hid your light under a bushel. We're if you don't mind, we're going to take that bushel off and shine a little light on it because it's a very hopeful message for our country. And Dina Bella, and I just told him about this. Well, what can we do? And I said, well, maybe we could invite people to come to have a conference. And he said, let's do it. And then he said he needed President Garvey's approval. And President Garvey said, let's do it. And we're here. So with that, and so throughout the evening, I hope you get to meet a number of people here. One thing, hopefully at each of your tables, though the seating's got a little bit mixed around, but we have 18 students from the Bush School of Business here who were welcoming you, giving your name tags. And so they're sitting amongst you to share what's going on here, but also to learn what's going on in your companies. So this is a very unique conference that we have the ability to share with colleagues from different companies, different organizations, different generations, different experiences. So Dina Bella, if I can turn to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We're just so delighted to have you all here. I have to say this event is somewhat of a dream come true for me. So I was baptized Catholic, raised Catholic. I went to Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, a Catholic university, not this one. The immediate result, unfortunately, was I became an atheist. So that didn't work too well. But I spent years and years searching meaning of life, how am I supposed to live my life, and so on. Eventually, I became what we call a revert, so I reverted to my Catholic faith. But throughout my careers in business, before coming to academia, I always had this pressing question after this reversion. What does it mean to be a person of faith in the workplace? How does one serve God in business? I spent a dozen years in business. I was a brand manager at Procter & Gamble. I spent several years with McKinsey & Company, a little consulting firm, maybe you've heard of them. And then eventually left the business world, always searching, and went to the University of Virginia, did a PhD in business ethics there. I came 17 years ago to Catholic University. And then in 2013, with President Garvey's inspiration, had the opportunity to help create a business school. A business school dedicated to this question: what does it mean to be a person of faith in business? So the business school where you'll be located tomorrow, that's why we exist. So you can see how perfectly fitting it is. You can see why when Brian came to visit me, we just said, let's do this. This is so obviously kind of what we hope to see. I think the question of what does it mean to be a person of faith in business is such an important one. For a number of reasons. It's clear, I think, that the business world could always use more ethics, right? More caring about society, more caring about the environment, more caring about the marginalized. It surprises me that when we have an economy that is manifestly doing so well, right, as it is these days, a number of politicians, and I don't make any kind of political statement here, but a number of politicians advocate for socialism, which socialism is a theory that basically says you can't trust business, right? You got to do things only through, or largely through, government. What have we done wrong in business that people would think that you can't trust business, right? I think it's a perception that there's not enough of us who care in business. It's a perception that we only care about profits and we don't care about people. And that perception is sometimes grounded in reality, right? But people of faith can bring more caring into business, right? It can bring more caring into the work that we do. So that's why I think we need people of faith in business. But I also think there's something more than that, and even more important. I have come to believe, I can't prove it, but I've come to believe that it's not just that people of faith can help bring more caring, but that without faith, all of our efforts to do good just seem to run out of energy. This was my own personal experience living as an atheist, that as human beings, we just don't have the resources inside us to do good day after day, right? That without God, we run out of steam. Or worse, kind of in a way worse than running out of steam, we become frantic in our efforts to do good, you know? We become, in the words of C.S. Lewis, the kind of person who lives for others, and you can tell who those others are by the hunted look in their eyes, right? Just the kind of person who's determined to do good, even if it hurts you when you're being done good to, you know? That kind of franticness that just can't last. Instead of the sort of quiet, persevering, doing good, day in, day out, gently, right? That is characteristic of the saints, right? This is what is needed. So the business world needs more people of faith, so long as we're able to act as people of faith 24/7, right? And not have to park our faith at the door before we come into our workplace. And that's why I think this conference is just so important. Absolutely delighted to welcome all of you. I'm looking forward to being with you tonight and all day tomorrow. With Brian, I believe that people in the future will look back on these 2 days and say something very special began those 2 days. So I'm just really glad that you're here. God bless you all. Welcome to the Bush School and to the Catholic University of America. And now I'd like to introduce my boss, the president of the Catholic University of America, John Garvey.
Thank you, and let me join Brian and Andrew and welcome you to Catholic University. It's really great to have you here. I'm particularly happy to be invited because the concern that you have for religious freedom in business is a particular concern of my own. I have been, for a number of years, a member and the secretary of the board of directors of the Becket Fund, a nonprofit that is dedicated to protecting and promoting religious liberty. Becket is a small group that does mostly appellate litigation, mostly in the Supreme Court or the Courts of Appeals. But last year we decided that we could do useful service by providing periodically an honest survey of the state of religious liberty in America. Our partner in this was a group called Heart and Mind Strategies, a research-led consulting firm that itself has no position on the subject. And the project was funded by the Templeton Foundation and a few other groups. And we recently released the first Religious Freedom Index. And it shows three things that should be of interest to business people. First is that religious freedom is a value that stands outside the culture wars. 87% of the respondents in our research said that people should be free to practice religion in daily life without facing discrimination or harm from others. 82% said that people should be free to practice their beliefs even if they're contrary to majority practices, like not eating pork, not drinking alcohol, wearing a turban or kippah or hijab. That's the first thing, that religious freedom is outside. People see it as something outside the culture wars. Second, there's a strong opposition to government threats. 70% of respondents said that religious organizations should be free to choose their own leaders and employees without government interference. And the opposition to government interference extends even to funding cases. 2/3 of our respondents said that religious groups who provide services to the community, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, and so on, should be eligible to receive government funds on the same terms as a non-religious organization. And third, though American politics is increasingly shot through with tribalism and issues of group identity, the index showed really strong support for accommodation of minority religious beliefs and practices. Let me quote from a sentence from them. On a question that included examples of practices from a wide variety of religions, including Sikhs, Jehovah's Witnesses, and many others, 80% of respondents expressed support for the freedom to practice such beliefs in general, and 74% supported the expression of similar practices in the workplace. This held true even in cases where the practices impose on or inconvenience other people in the workplace. I tend to think, I should confess that I'm a lawyer, I'm not a real academic, but I tend to think that the law follows the culture rather than leads it, and this is as it should be. And as it happens, the findings of our Religious Freedom Index align well with the direction the Supreme Court has taken in First Amendment cases. When I was a student in law school, the standard model held that the Constitution required separation, some like to say strict separation, of church and state. And this was an idea that informed cases about aid to parochial schools. The public funds, it was said, should not be used to support religious enterprises. It was also applied to prevent prayer in public schools. Religion, legal scholars said, is something that has its proper place in churches and in homes, but it's a private thing, and it's not one that we should bring into public places like schools. My family had an unspoken rule against talking about politics or sex at the dinner table. The reason was that these subjects tended to provoke arguments because different people held different and sometimes strongly held views, and we didn't want to upset digestion. Something like this informed the principle of separation. We need to keep religion out of public places, people said, because my views might offend you, and we shouldn't let that happen. And this principle spilled over to Title VII jurisprudence, which is the part of the law that you are most concerned with. Title VII forbids religious discrimination in the workplace. Now, here's the odd thing about it. You combine this with the rule, like in Meritor Savings Bank, against hostile work environments, and you get the odd result that speaking about faith in the workplace is taboo. Talking about my religion might offend non-believers, just as talking about sex might offend women in the workplace. And employers are liable if they don't police this culture and prevent it from happening. There's something obviously wrong with this result. Title VII was designed to make the workplace a more accommodating area for the protected classes, those that are defined by race, color, religion, sex, and national origin, but it was being interpreted to stifle people of faith. Fortunately, all of this has changed. The Supreme Court has, for some time now, abandoned the principle of separation in favor of a rule of neutrality. In 1995, for example, it held that a public university, Andrews University of Virginia, had to give funding to a Christian student magazine on the same terms as it supported other journalistic groups. That's neutral treatment. In 2002, it upheld a voucher program that included aid to parochial schools in common with other private schools, treating everybody neutrally without regard to their religion. And maybe most helpfully for our collective interest, in 1997, President Clinton issued an executive order entitled Guidelines on Religious Exercise and Religious Expression in the Federal Workplace. These are really sensible ideas about the ways employers should treat this issue. Within the federal government, they have the force of an executive order, but they're also a useful reading of Title VII for private employers who are interested in accommodating religion in the workplace, and this is how the EOC has begun to interpret Title VII. The guidelines say, for example, that employees should be free to engage in religious expression with fellow employees, just as they would with non-religious expression. They even may attempt to persuade fellow employees of the correctness of their religious views, just as they might attempt to persuade them that the Patriots and not the Giants are the best football team in the NFL. Employee resource groups are a great way of bringing faithful employees together to share and strengthen their faith. And for employers who sponsor such groups, they're an appealing feature of the corporate climate. They say, in essence, that you don't have to check your faith at the door if you want to work at Texas Instruments or Target or Toyota. And as the Becket Fund's Religious Freedom Index shows, they also align nicely with what most Americans think about religious freedom. And happily, they square with the Supreme Court's evolving jurisprudence about the place of religion in our public life. So I compliment you on your concern for this issue. It's one that matters a lot to a big proportion of your employees, as it does to most Americans. So thank you for joining us to pay attention to it.
So a few comments I'd like to share. First is to thank our sponsors, and I'm going to begin in a particular order for that. And I have a prop with me, two props, but this one, this is for the Seventh-day Adventists Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Association. So you'll understand what this glass means in a minute. So they work. Is Orlin or any of the folks? I didn't see them come in. No, so I can talk about them a little bit behind their backs. They work on a lot of cases of workplace discrimination, and Seventh-day Adventists, as you may know, worship on sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. So then Saturday work becomes a problem for them. They also have strict dietary laws, and they sort of follow Old Testament teachings, no pork, and they're more or less vegetarians. And like members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they also don't drink coffee or wine. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, we do have wine served, and there are people here either for religious reasons or other reasons aren't drinking. So I just want to raise a glass to them, but that's not what my prop's for. I do raise a glass. So as we're at a Catholic place, and we've heard some, Catholic perspectives. So I'll give you one Catholic perspective on on the grape business. So if a Catholic has a vineyard or has a grape, growing grapes, and we have the best crop ever, what first comes to mind? What are we going to do with that crop? Reserve, bottle it. This is really valuable. Now, in Brazil, the Seventh-day Adventists own a number of businesses, as they do around the world. And it's called Superbom, and they're a juice and fruit company, and they experienced that problem. They had the best crop of grapes ever in the history of Brazil. So applying their religious convictions to that business opportunity, they came up with a reserve bottle of grape juice. And they sell it with a glass of wine. And it became the best-selling grape juice in Brazil ever. So I mention that in honor of my Seventh-day Adventist colleagues and friends, because that's not the first innovation that came out of their faith. Of course, the religious history of cornflakes. Coming out of Battle Creek, Michigan, the Kellogg's brothers, Seventh-day Adventists, bemoaned the fact that as they would say it, the temple, the Holy Spirit, was being fueled by grease and eggs and ham, and they looked out at the cornfields, and voila, cornflakes, which changed the world. So from within your own beliefs, whatever your faith is, and if your faith is to not have a faith, whatever that inspiration is, there's a new business idea lurking. So what you're doing in your companies is not just, feel-good stuff. You might be the next spark that makes your company have that next big innovation that not only makes money but makes good in our world. So to our first sponsor, I wanted to mention that. Now, I'm going to mention several companies. Let's see, I'm going to mention several companies. And one of the things that brought us together is that we had an index that came out, the Corporate Religious Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Index, the READY Index, that was published. It's been picked up by Associated Press. We've had, more news is coming out. Fox Business is going to cover it. Some of you may have met a reporter here tonight from the Wall Street Journal. All these things, this is news. And so this index came out. But I just wanted to embarrass my daughter a little bit, Melissa. So Melissa works with me, and she is a law student. I mean, she's a law graduate, working on her bar this year. But she's the one that worked with me to develop that index, organize the research. So if you came out well on the index, thank Melissa. If you didn't, but she's been working with me for a lot of years. So now. I really think that our country is at a tipping point, because I think in corporate America we're at a tipping point. What those of you working companies have done to make faith and belief something that's recognized as part of diversity has been a lot of work. So for some companies, and I'm going to ask those with American Airlines to stand up just for a second. You'll come up a little bit later. Everybody from American that's here. And notice their planes weren't late. But American Airlines has been doing this for 20 years, and they've graciously sponsored our dinner tonight, and we thank them, and they help fill up the seats, and we're so glad we can celebrate with them all the work that they've been doing, and we'll hear more from American Airlines in a minute. Also, Tyson Foods. If I can ask Karen and Abdullah, I think the two of you are here. So very, very different models of faith in the workplace. These are chaplains working in Tyson Foods. They have chaplains across 97, you know the count, around nearly 100 chaplains, 28 states, all across the United States, full time. They're out there on the floors preparing much of the food we eat, on a daily basis. And so thank you. They're one of our sponsors as well for this. Well, this movement has been going on for years. So at American Airlines, it's been 20 plus years. We're going to hear from Ellen Barker from Texas Instruments. And Texas, American Airlines is from Texas. There's a lot of, who's from Texas here? So, Texas Instruments is also a pioneer with American Airlines in this, and Kent Johnson, he'll be coming up a little bit later to introduce Ellen after dinner, really has worked on this and made this program that it's not a divisive issue. Working together with all the other identities people bring to work, whether it's sexual orientation or it's race or it's ability, faith and belief cuts across all of those areas, and that's what I think is the hope in our country. Salesforce, we're going to hear, there's several from Salesforce. I don't know if you all want to stand up. They're around So they're sort of newcomers, when you compare them to some of the other companies, but they're the ones to beat, I'll tell you. They started Faith Force 3 years ago, 2 years ago, in correspondence between Australia and Chicago and San Francisco, and this thing has taken off. We'll hear all about that tomorrow from Sue. And it's the fastest growing employee group in the company's history. It's again a tipping point. It's sort of been bottled up. The people bring their whole selves to work, and this part of faith has not gotten the same attention as some of the others. All of which need attention, but I think now faith it's okay. We're seeing it's okay. Intel, we have several from Intel. Where are you all sitting? Can you folks stand up? So Intel has, again, been at this, I just learned 25 years. Craig, is that right? You got it right? 25 years. And, when we talk about diversity, then there's diversity. I don't know how many different groups, they brought some banners along. Of course, the main, the largest groups in the country, Christians, Jewish groups, Muslims, and then there's, shout it out, Hindus. Yeah, and their evolution has been to go from these multiple groups that have been coming and coming up, including atheists and agnostics. What's the name of the group?
Atheists, agnostics, and
allies at Intel. So all of these groups have formed themselves into a coalition just this year. So you would think, okay, these faiths would be pulling in different directions, including, atheists and agnostics. Instead, there's common ground. Isn't that hopeful? Isn't that hopeful? Thank you. And I didn't see the folks from Dell. Did the folks from Dell come in? Marquis? I'm sorry, I didn't get to say hi. Are you here alone or? Marquis on her way, and Glenda. So Dell, it's also relatively new into this, but it's growing, and I'm so glad that you can be here. So we'll be recognizing Dell some more, but they only registered like 3 days ago, I don't know. Yeah, so they only learned about it. And is Heather here from American Express? I'm sorry. Oh, right there. So you've got to hear Heather's stories. We had an international business roundtable at the United Nations in September, and Heather shared what's going on at work. I don't know if I can share it. Heather, can I share? Go ahead. Yeah, and she just shared, we had, probably 30, 40 people coming from all over the world, business people, CEOs, others. And she just started to share, she's part of the SALT group, and it's not an acronym. It comes from the Bible where it says, Jesus said we're the salt of the earth. And, and to be that salt, that flavor in the world. And they have a Muslim group and Jewish group and so forth. But she's part of the SALT group. And she just said, well, what we do, if we want to recruit, and this is my version of the story, so I might take artistic liberty, but they'll bring in 14 cases of Bibles, put them in the kitchen table at American Express, and if you want to come join SALT, you can take what our literature is, it's the Bible, and come join up, come see us in room 302. I make that up a little bit, but I think it's sort of factually correct. And we had some people from governments there, and it's like, whoa, what did you say? Don't you get sued? You can't do that. Well, no, if the Muslim group wants to come in and put Qurans on the table and invite them, they can do that, and as long as it's equitable. As long as it's equitable. So, there's just amazing things going on inside your companies. And so that's what we're here to celebrate. So in a minute, I'm going to invite American Airlines to come up and share a little bit about their story. But first, this index that we have a very short video kicking it off, and we hope you can share this. And I have a note card here. I'm supposed to say if you want to tweet and other things on social media, #FaithAtWork. And we're posting the video on our website, Religious Freedom and Business Foundation, but it'll be at the Facebook. So Religious Freedom and Business Foundation on Facebook, the video will be there. So I'm going to show the video, and then I'm going to invite American Airlines reps to come up and share their insights. They're becoming more faith-friendly. It's been decades in the making for some, like Texas Instruments. For others, like Salesforce, it's new and rapidly growing. The Religious Freedom and Business Foundation's READY Index finds this trend is propelled by company-sponsored, faith-oriented employee groups and other programs. Google, Intel, American Express, and others score highly for supporting such initiatives. American Airlines does too. One of their chief flight controllers is also a priest and company chaplain. In fact, Tyson Foods has chaplains on staff across America, serving the needs of all employees, regardless of faith or belief. Why do these companies do it? It's good for employees, it gives them a competitive advantage, and that's good for America. So again, that you can share that on social media if you feel so inclined. So from American Airlines, Nikki Boone and Anila Jivanji are senior specialists in diversity, equity, and inclusion in American Airlines. Are you both going to come up and share? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right here. These are wonderful ladies, and they have a lot to share. Please.
Well, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Really? Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Yeah, see, we need the fuel, you know? Yes. So I'm Anila Jivanji.
And I'm Nikki Boone.
So on behalf of the 15 people that are here with American Airlines, we are honored to welcome you to this conference and sponsor this dinner. So just a little bit about me. So I was born and brought up in South Africa, and I was shipped off, literally shipped off, to a convent school run by Irish nuns, St. Francis of Assisi. But what they did is they really helped me hold on to me being a Hindu, but also helped me share the different perspectives, because we had girls from international parts of the world. So the great part about being in that school was being exposed to all kinds of cultures. So Salesforce, hats off to you, because what I lived as a child is what you're living in your workplace. So that's awesome. That's really great. So I know, Nikki, it's off script, right? I'm going to use your phone now. Thank you. So on behalf of all of us at American Airlines, we are really, really, really glad that we're here. And thank you for being so persistent. So at American, we understand the power of a dedicated, skilled, and diverse workforce. Our business is about connecting people from all around the world. Think about it, 365 destinations. So you could go to a new place every day. So every day we have 130,000 team members that we bring closer, flying over walls, they're crossing borders, and they're bridging divides and really not creating them. Now we at American Airlines, we really do pride ourselves on the inclusiveness and then also the diversity from all the people that we hire and also all the communities that we serve. We would not be American Airlines or a global airline if we didn't have the people that work for us and the communities that we serve. So Nikki is going to tell you another part of it.
So really happy to be here. My name is Nikki Boone. I'm a senior specialist of inclusion, equity, and diversity at American Airlines. I oversee our employee business resource groups with my counterpart, Winston Lamb, and we are so happy to be trendsetters in the space of our faith-based EBRGs. So we are very happy to be here. Brian and team and the university, we're very happy to be here. Very happy that you took a chance to make this event happen today. It's long overdue and well needed. Our people and our culture are a source of pride, yet no company can rest on its history. We are fortunate to work for a company that is committed to not only celebrating core values of diversity, inclusion, and equity, but in taking action to expand them. With the support of the 20 employee business resource groups, we are able to create an environment where our team members are able to bring their whole authentic selves to work. Having 15 people from 5 different employee business resource groups that focus and educate on faith at work is a testament to strong and inclusive culture at American Airlines. Every day, we strive to ensure that all of our team members, our customers, feel welcomed, safe, and confident, and trust in the place that we are in. We believe pushing ourselves to be corporate leaders will create opportunities for us all to come together every day in the service for one another, our customers, and our communities. As I stated before, we are very, very excited to be here. Our employee business resource group teams are here. We have our Jewish group, our Christian group, and our Muslim group. We also have an interfaith, intercultural group, and our Indian employee business resource group is here as well. So would you please give them a round of applause for the hard work they do. Thank you. Oh, and not to forget, our Asian Pacific Islander group has also joined us because there's a lot to be learned and gleaned from this experience as well. I want to wish you all a terrific conference, and thank you for letting the American team be a part of this event. And we also want to encourage you to keep flying on American Airlines.
Oh, wait, Nikki, could we take a picture together? Yeah, we just want to take a quick picture together with all of us up here. So,
Awesome.
can we do boy, girl, boy, girl?
Sure. Boy, girl, boy, girl. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we'll do the invocation now if you want to stay, and then we'll go down after the invocation. So tonight, we're coming close to the food now. So tonight our invocation will be led by the Reverend Dr. Ambassador Susan Johnson Cook, former United States Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom during the Obama administration, and Imam Abdullah El-Saki, did I get it right? El-Saki, chaplain at Tyson Foods. Now we invite everyone of every faith and religious tradition, as well as those who don't identify as people of faith, to pause for a time of silent thanksgiving. Thanksgiving for the opportunity to be part of this conference and what's going on. So let's pause for a few moments. And as Ambassador Susan Johnson Cook and Imam Abdullah El-Saki share their prayer tonight with us, we invite everyone to pray or reflect out of their own conviction or tradition.
Good evening. It's Black History Month, and so we have a song that says, "We've come this far by faith," in the Black church world, and it's appropriate for tonight. But I want to just thank the Dean and Mr. President. Thank you. I received a fellowship after my ambassadorship here at Catholic University and IPR. So thank you very much. And to Your Highness, Brian Grimm, they said we had a prince that left England. We have one that's here already. So we're so grateful. But thank you for all your...
I did not script that.
Okay. But we thank you for all you've done. So may we join hands together with the person closest to us and be thankful for this evening. Our Creator, we come tonight by faith. We call you by many names or not. We've come across the waters. We've come today through the waters. We ask that you bless those in flight and bless us with light. Thank you for traveling mercies. Thank you for world changers, for visionaries who see beyond the ordinary and see the extraordinary, who see beyond the natural and see the supernatural. We thank you for Brian and Paul and their team. We thank you for the vitality, the strength with which to work. And we thank you for the victories that have been won and those yet to be won. We declare tonight that faith works, even at work. Thank you for those who've embraced a faith-friendly environment. So in the song we sing, "This Little Light of Mine," I'm going to let it shine. Everywhere we go, may we let it shine. From our hearts and our homes, in our schools, on our jobs, may our lights shine. So tonight we ask you to bless the food and our appetites as we remember those who have neither this night. Thank you for the hands that planted the seeds and those who harvested the crops, those who prepared the food. Bless us as we partake it, and may we be salty, as we are the salt of the earth. May the food be tasty. We pray that you'll reduce the calories and supersize the blessings. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. You have the mic come?
Yeah, let him come. If you want to.
Stay up here and get our picture too.
Thanks, Madam Ambassador. It's so nice to have you back.
So glad to be back.
Yeah.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, I'm going to use some words in Arabic, but I'm going to translate it, so
Okay.
you would not think that I'm talking about you. Please focus with me in the prayer, and I start with this. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. We begin with the name of the Lord God, the gracious, the merciful. We praise you, our Lord. We thank you, the Lord of all that is exist, the Lord of all universe, the Lord of all world. Thank you. You are the helper, the provider, the caregiver, the protector, the sustainer. We worship you, God Almighty. We pray to you with all your beautiful names and attributes. Your prayers, Lord Almighty God, with peace and mercy upon all the prophets and messengers and their families, their apostles, their companions, and all those that follow till the day of judgment. Increase us, O Lord, in knowledge, complete our faith, and gather us together in your mercy, in your presence, in your blessings. We ask you, O Lord, to give us goodness in this life and hereafter. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank-
Can we take a picture?
Who's got the camera? Get my dimple over here right there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I'm going to
Thank
give
you.
some dinner instructions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So now for some dinner instructions. Before we do that, I've learned that the name of this is called a silent icebreaker. So I'm just going to ask you to stand up with a few questions. And the first one is and I know there's at least one. So I want to see if there's more than one. Who traveled from another country to get here today? If you did, stand up. Oh. Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Name your country. Costa Rica? Canada? England? Bethlehem. So I think that if you want to meet somebody from these countries now, put your eyes on them. Okay, thanks. So during dinner, if you want to catch them, who here was a middle child? Stand up if you were a middle child. Okay, so there's other special people here that know what you went through. Okay, please stand up if you think and put to practice that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Yeah, not just believe it, but do it. Whoa, okay. Thank you. All right. And now the last one, we have someone here from a company called Laughing Matters. Did I get that right? Yes. I don't. No, I'm not going to call you up. Don't worry. But she taught us to write jokes. I was at a conference down in Austin, and she taught us to write jokes. So we'll just end with this one. If you were, it's not a joke, but well, we did the joke I wrote. I'll just give it, and then it's very short. I discovered the key. I found that the key to life is now a fob. That's original. Okay. Okay, the last one. I thought it was okay. All right. I think it's good. Okay. The other one, the other version of that, the key to life. I found that the key to life is in my other pocket. Okay, you can steal either one. All right. This is the last one. If you were the class clown, stand up. Class clown, back in high school. Class clown, no, be honest, come on, if you were. Okay, well, I hope even though our time is short, I hope you get to meet some of these class clowns and other folks that are here from so many different backgrounds and experiences and get to share with them. So we have a buffet tonight. So if you would, we're going to start with this half of the room. If you just sort of gradually make your way up and get your food and then come back to your table, and then we'll start here. So you can continue your conversations at the dinner table. Thank you. If anyone wants a kosher meal, we have kosher meals sealed by a rabbi. Also, the food is generally halal and kosher and vegetarian.
Not at all. If you'll allow me just a moment.
And we're matching.
Thank you so much.
Let me know if you want me to take them vertically as well.
The skinny way. Do you mind?
Not at all.
If you angle it like this, it makes us look skinny.
Will do.
Thank you. It's a thing. Thank you so much.
Of course.
I will. If we look skinny.
Okay, the B group can come on up. I think that sounds on. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So there'll be some desserts and coffee and other drinks in a few minutes, but first we're going to honor our keynote speaker, just because we're going to do that before her speech. Dina Bella has a very long commute, and he might have to leave before the evening's over. So we have Ellen Barker. Ken's going to give her a proper introduction, but I like to say she runs Texas Instruments. She doesn't. But she's a top leader at Texas Instruments. She'll be our keynote speaker tonight. But we wanted to give you a small thank you gift from both Catholic University and the Religious Freedom and Business Foundation.
I've never gotten a gift before.
That's how much faith we have.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we're going to call Kent up, and
All
we'll
right.
give you a proper introduction.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. He'll be more accurate. Oh, so introducing Ellen tonight is Kent Johnson. Many of you know Kent because he has been part of the pioneering of this whole initiative at Texas Instruments. He retired a couple years ago, and now he's graciously working with the Religious Freedom and Business Foundation as our senior corporate advisor, helping us know what to do, what not to do. And he's a leader in this in his own right, but he'll be introducing Ellen now. Thank you, Kent.
Yeah, I'm the little guy in this group. Ellen Barker, Senior Vice President and CIO, Chief Information Officer for Texas Instruments. I've known her for about 10 years plus, and I've known her in different capacities, as my role was a senior lawyer for Texas Instruments for many years, and also I've known her in the diversity world as well. And I can tell you this is a person who really lives out her faith at work, both at home, at work, in every facet of her life. It's her passion because she is called to the workplace to make a difference. This is a person who I would characterize as transparent and authentic. Isn't that a quality that we crave in our leaders? Oh, but that we could know that when they tell us something and they say it with verve, that they really mean it. This is a person in whom there is no guile. This is a person who speaks her heart, and there's no ulterior motive, no hiding. What you see is what you get, and it's pretty wonderful. Now, I saw these characteristics in Ellen in many different ways over the years. One of the ways was in the way that she handled the integration of National Semiconductor to Texas Instruments when we bought that company. Very large company, lots of employees coming into the fold. And as you can imagine, she was focused on making sure that a lot of the processes were aligned between these two companies to make things work, to make the products flow, and make all the business processes work. And she did that well. But she also was focused on something else. She was focused on the people, a focus on welcoming them, not putting them in a box and saying, okay, you can join us. We're a bunch of Texans. You know, you become like us, wear the boots or what. No, but all kidding aside, she did not put that kind of a message out. The way that she is she is authentic in herself. And when a leader is authentic in herself or himself, they inspire authenticity in others. You know, we have a message and a cause that's going to be repeated through the day tomorrow. And it's a cause of freedom, freeing people to be who they are. They don't need to fit into the box. And Ellen does that. You know, we all of us have in our companies a pride of our service or our products. We know that what we're doing makes a difference in the world, and we're rightly proud about that. At Texas Instruments, for instance, making semiconductors that enable all sorts of other things, that includes a device that goes into a pacemaker, keeps you on track, moment by moment. For some people, keeps them going at all. It's powerful. And we're proud of that. And we're proud that maybe the car will stay on the road and avoid an accident because of our technology. We're proud of that. You're proud of what your businesses produce, and you ought to be. There's another product that you're producing, and Ellen gets this. It's a product of relationship. It's a product of caring about people. If we care about our people, we'll want to know what makes them tick. We'll want to put them in an environment where they can be transparent and authentic. And for that reason, I am thrilled to have Ellen here to introduce her, and I look forward to your remarks, Ellen. Thank you.
I don't think we need a keynote. Well done. Well done. Thank you. I'm honored, first of all, to be here. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Catholic University of America, for having us. I look around this audience and I think, wow, this is a start of something, a continuation of something that can really make a difference. And when we think about that for where you're headed for this conference, I'm hoping you'll take a few things away. First of all, that religious diversity does make an impact in the workplace. It really, really does. I have talked to many of you, and the stories that you've shared are very similar to the stories that I've heard. And it does make a difference. I think religious diversity also promotes respect, trust, and meaningful connections. Think about that, meaningful connections in the workplace, because we can bring our faith to work. I hope you get that out of this conference and understand that. And the third thing I want you to think about is your why. Why are you here? Why does it make a difference? Why? Why for your companies? Why for you personally? And I want you to think about that as you hear people talk about their journeys so that you can have your own why and take that why back to your companies so we can have a case for action. Because we are living in a time where this is so impactful to us and for us. So I am thrilled to be here. On behalf of Texas Instruments, we have begun our work in diversity with religious diversity groups in the year 2000. And that was at a time for many places that people didn't talk about their spiritual journeys, what even their religion was. I've listened, though, to American Airlines and to Tyson and to Intel, and I think, wow, you also embraced it 20 years ago. And so I think it is really exciting because what we value at TI is for us to bring our different styles, our different attributes, our diversity into the workforce so we can bring our whole self in, so we can value that part of it. And I'm so proud that TI does support our diversity groups, our employee resource groups that many of you have talked about. We've been doing that for a number of years. We have 15 different diversity groups across the globe at TI. It encompasses women, Hispanics, Black employees, many different Asian cultures and Asian populations, the LGBTQ, as well as our 3 diversity initiatives or resource groups. We call them initiatives at TI. We have the Christian Values Initiative, the Jewish Initiative, and the Muslim Employee Initiative. And it has been fascinating to see us grow and to see us connect in certain ways across this. And so some companies are struggling even today on how to incorporate religion in the workplace. And I'm proud that we've been able to do that. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you we've not had challenges along the way, because there are going to be challenges as you embrace on this journey, or you've already recognized them through your companies. But I am committed and convinced that we can get through those challenges because the impact can be so much greater than the challenges that we see. When I think about the workforce at TI, it represents a wide variety of diverse worldviews, like many of your companies as well. And for many of our employees, faith forms their core values and their identities. So why not let them bring that into the workplace? Why not? And our company and leaders in our company and leaders here, we recognize that respecting differences is the key to inclusion. We also recognize that freedom of religious expression does not mean that we can discriminate against people who don't share the same religion. And we're adamant about that. No discrimination inside of our company. I'm blessed to be at this company. I've been able to celebrate and been involved for many years with these faith-based initiatives. And some of you who haven't been on this journey may think, how can you do this? How is it done inside a company? And you're going to learn that. You're going to hear stories after stories of how it's been done successfully in many companies. And then we want to take this message out further. And that may be one of your whys, to take this message out further. Because I think that the world says there's lots of cynicism and there's lots of distrust, and everything that we read and see focuses on that. Why are we focused on that? We need to focus on being inclusionary and looking around this room and having these meaningful conversations about what we do. It gives me hope that in our companies we don't have cynicism and distrust because we value our employees and we value their differences, but we also move to find out where we're similar. And I think that's really, really exciting because we can create an environment that we can learn about each other. You've all, or some of you have heard, seek to understand and then to be understood. If we walk into our office every day and we say to ourselves, I'm going to seek to understand and then to be understood, wow, that can be really powerful as we learn from each other. I think about our 3 religious diversities and how we come together each year, together and separate. We go to each other's places of worship. We learn about each other's holy days and what makes, why we do what we do. We learn about these practices because it's important. Recently, actually, it was at our May event at TI. I realized it was right in the middle of Ramadan. And at that same time, I was having an ice cream kickoff for the IT team. Wait, that doesn't work, does it? I mean, the Muslims can eat ice cream during Ramadan, during the day. Wow, I didn't really think about that. So what did I do this year? I went back to my calendar. I asked my great admin, I said, I need you to find out when it is in 2020, and we won't have our ice cream kickoff during that time. This is how we need to seek to understand. And then we've had rich discussions on what does that mean? Why do you do that? Tell me what the practice is and why it's important to the tenets of your faith. And I just think we can just open our eyes when we really try to understand what's happening with other people. When I think of all of our initiatives at TI, we have common goals. We have common goals to collaborate and have a respectful, inclusive culture. We want to cultivate our talent and empower people, and it's a great message to go out to university campuses and to talk about diversity and inclusion at your company, to be able to say we have faith-based initiatives, or that we have all kinds of diversity employee resource groups at our company. It is a recruiting tool for us that we need. And when I think about the millennials, or early in career people, Gen Zs, what digital natives, whatever we want to call them, they're a lot younger than me. But what I realized is they're purposeful. They want to come to a company that they can feel and live out their purpose. So as you think about how you're going to recruit the next generations, remember that and bring your faith-based initiatives out in the forefront, because I promise you, they will choose you, and maybe only based on the fact that you have a faith-based initiative. I can tell you one of my person that led our prayer around the pole We have National Day of Prayer and Prayer Around the Pole, and we celebrate that at TI. And at all the different sites around our nation, TIers gather and pray around the pole. Pray for our leaders of our country, pray for leaders at the company, pray for one another. The one that I attended, at the location I attended, it was led by a new college grad. And he was reading scripture, he was praying, he was talking to us about how we should pray. I was really blown away. And later I asked him, what brought you to TI? And what he said is, you have faith-based initiatives, and I can bring my whole self into work. And in fact, he said during his intern presentation that he had to give to his group, he was able to put that one of his hobbies was reading the Bible. He said at other companies that he had interned with, he could never have even shared that. So I want us to embrace the power of this in cultivating the next generation that are going to be the bridge across our nation in the years to come. Our initiatives also enhance our business value. That's what they're there for. We're there to be in business, but we're also there to cultivate people and to grow together. We also want to enrich our communities. We volunteer together, and I'm sure you all do too, and that is so empowering to volunteer as a group. And I think the groups really collaborate very, very well together. We have differences. And especially when you think about bringing the diversity initiatives together, whether it's faith-based initiatives, having a dialogue with the LGBTQ community, that's a really interesting dynamic. Kent fostered that, and it has been continuing, and it's a really interesting discussion. And the more open we are on our dialogue about faith, the more trust that builds. And it's all about that. We have to understand that maybe we're even more similar than we are different. And when we embrace those similarities, we learn from each other, we begin to respect each other even more. And I just think it's so powerful. I know some of you that I've talked to, we talked about these groups that have come together to pray. And usually it's based on some life event that has happened that's really disturbing. So a couple of years ago, when we had some mass shootings in Dallas for the police department, there was this spontaneous group of people, of about 250 people that came together. And we circled up in prayer, whatever our faith was, and we embraced the grief that we were going through as a community. We lived it together, and it was very, very powerful. We did the same with the shootings in the Jewish synagogue. We grieved together as people of faith, and that is so important. We celebrate and we're joyful, but we also grieve. And coming together like that really can make a difference for us. And I think for many, religion and spirituality is really core to our identities. And our faith strongly informs our work and motivates us in work. So I think it's so important that we embrace that as companies. And if we don't, people will often feel devalued and stifled. And so at TI, we respect religious differences and understand how collaborating across these faith communities can build this very inclusive culture where employees can be themselves and feel like they can bring their whole self into work. You're going to hear that during this conference from so many people. It's interesting, Kent mentioned that I was led an integration out in California. And as I was there for 3 years, I befriended a taxi cab driver. He would pick me up at the airport and take me to my condo, and I trusted him, and we talked about our faith. And he's a Sikh. And so I'd ask him about what his prayers were like, and he'd talk about, what does your Bible say about this? And we'd have these rich, enlightening discussions about faith. Now, this is a taxi driver that we just became friends over faith. And so one day he had to take me to California, to San Francisco, and it was a longer drive, and he said, do you mind if I put my prayers on in the car while we travel? I said, no, I don't mind at all. I'm interested in what's important to you. And so it was a really great bonding, but unfortunately, he actually had a massive heart attack and died while I was living there. And I had called him, and his brother answered, and his brother had to tell me the bad news, and I decided that it was important for me to pay my respects to the family. So I went to the funeral. I had never been to a funeral for a person of the Sikh faith. So I called one of my colleagues in Dallas, and I said, what should I expect? And he told me what I should expect. And then that bridged the conversation with my colleague about his faith. And that colleague is a very close colleague of mine now that I'm back at in Dallas. And he's going through some really challenges with a family member that has been diagnosed with cancer. And so we've been talking about how we could support him. How can I support you? He says, I want you to pray for me. And so when you think about sharing those kinds of meaningful relationships where you feel so connected, that they can say, please pray for me, I think that's the least I can do, is what I say. And so I just think it's so important for you to get to know people and to let people know who you are and to live your faith and be that light. I think sometimes as I'm the executive sponsor for our Christian Values Initiative, and I like to attend as many of the events as I can. And sometimes my calendar gets busy, just like each and every one of yours. And I find that I need to go to this, but it's a burden. It's a burden because of time. And I felt that way last Easter. I went to the Easter praise and worship. It was a burden for me to go. I walked in there saying, I've got a zillion other things I need to be doing, and this feels burdensome. I walked out of there going, wow, I have been so blessed. And it wasn't a burden. My burden was removed by my group of, they didn't need me, I needed them. I needed them. And as we were singing praise and worship songs in a conference room at Texas Instruments, okay, there was another conference room next to us, and they're like, what's all that racket? And they didn't call it, it was a joyful noise, I promise. They came out, and they say, what's going on there? And I said, we're having our Easter praise and worship. And there was a whole nother group of people that were moved by the fact that we could do this at our company. I encourage you to do those things. You will find that they will make much more difference than you ever imagine. And remember, for me, it became about me. I needed them. So it's exciting to see how you can touch other people and how you can make a difference at your company. Recently, when I travel around the world, I go visit some of our factories. And I went to one of our factories that we had acquired. And I met with the Christian Values group there. And we were talking about how are they living out their faith in this factory. And I had a person sitting at that round table that had had many, many years of experience. Grown man, tears in his eyes, he said, we are so thankful that we can worship freely at Texas Instruments. We couldn't do that before. It didn't feel like we could do that before, and now we can. And you, TI, you've made a difference. I want you to be able to do that at your companies. I want you to think about how you can do that at your companies and determine what is your why, because that why is those people around the table that you're going to make a difference in their lives when you least expect it. God works in wonderful ways that we won't ever know fully. Let's use that. I encourage you to continue to have open and honest conversations. This is tough stuff, but have those open conversations and general understanding, because when people can bring their whole selves into the workplace, they can do extraordinary things. Extraordinary. Ordinary people can do extraordinary things when you let them bring their whole selves into work. So I am excited to think about where we're headed. I'm excited to continue to listen to the dialogues that you all are going to be sharing. I want you to remember to think about how religious groups can make an impact in your business, because I believe they can. I want you also to remember that these kind of dialogues help bring respect and trust and meaningful connections in your companies. And third, I want you to find your why. I want you to go back to your companies with your why. And I want you to live that out boldly. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I want you to live that out boldly so we can make this world, this nation, a better place through our companies and through faith-based initiatives such as we have here in this room. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you got your gift. You earned your gift. Didn't she earn her gift? Thank you, Ellen. Well, the work that I'm not in business. I'm in an NGO, and the work that the businesses are doing inspires me. Ellen inspires. All of this is inspiring, and I think what you said, this is going to impact our nation. So we want to move now to just give a little more recognition to the companies that scored well on our religious equity, diversity, and inclusion index. And so I'm going to just invite first Ingrid Van Der Velt, who I'll introduce her briefly. She was the first entrepreneur in residence at Dell. She created $100 million, is that right, $100 million? Sorry. $250 million fund to help women get into tech. And now she is a woman of modest vision. Now she only wants to empower 1 billion women. 1 billion. Helping 1 billion women get into business. Well, she's also a person of faith, and I'm interested. She's going to help us with the awards. We have 2 others, but I'll introduce them in a minute. But I'd like Ingrid just to share a few words about the new initiative that's parallel to this, the International Religious Freedom Business Roundtable that I mentioned just briefly earlier. And please, Ingrid, come. And I do have to say, she was delayed on her plane, and she should have been the MC for the night.
Oh, Brian. Well, hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Okay, so I just got off this flight, and I sent Brian a note, and I said, I don't know if I'm going to make it there on time. And he said, can you come straight to the event? And I said, well, no, not really. I'm in yoga pants and I don't have any makeup on. And they took my luggage. I have to go to the hotel. And then when the plane landed, I said, I have got to be there on time, air quotes. And so thank God everything worked out and we did all this in the airport. You ladies know what I'm talking about. And here we are. So great to be with you. And I will, can I just say, and Father Greg, nice to see you. Yeah, just seeing so many friends here. And I just have to say, I feel like, do you not feel like we have just come home? Like, I feel like I'm finally at home. And just thank you. A couple quick words. This is so neat. My parents, this is their alma mater. This is where they met and fell in love, Catholic University of America. And I know. And at the age of 4, I knew that I was called to empower women and girls around the world. I just didn't know what that was going to look like. I mean, what do you know at the age of 4? But as I got older and I started building companies, I really enjoyed the power of capitalism and the opportunity that it created to, for women especially, to create opportunities for ourselves, our families, our communities, and ultimately the world. But I really, really struggled to figure out how do these two things mesh. And it was on a dirt road in Dallas, Texas in 2011 where I was the day before this road on the dirt road. I prayed and I said, God, you know, I've had so many amazing experiences in my life, and things that worked really well and things that didn't work well, and what is all of this about? And I heard very clearly the call to empower 1 billion women. And in the moment of hearing this call, I actually freaked out. I was like, what does that even mean? But something truly extraordinary happens when, Ellen, as you said, we allow ourselves the opportunity to show up as our fullest selves and show what we are authentically called to do in the world. And it's amazing how the people and the resources and the opportunities open up in ways that we could never have even imagined. And it was that call on that dirt road in Dallas, Texas, that I said, well, how does one person empower 1 billion women? That led to a conversation with Michael Dell of Dell Computers, because I thought, well, the only way we're going to make this happen is with some technology. And it was in that conversation where I talked with him and then the president of the company, Steve Felice, who's the president of the company. I've never been so nervous going into a meeting before I had this meeting with, it was Steve, was this first meeting. And the reason I was so nervous is, what am I actually going to say? Am I going to say I was called by God on a dirt road in Dallas, Texas to empower 1 billion women? Like, really? And I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and sweated through my clothes literally for 5 days before this meeting, literally. Like, so what am I going to do? And then in prayer, really heard, this is exactly what you're going to do. You're going to go in and you're going to share authentically what this call is. And Steve is going to hear you, and he's going to have one of two choices to make. One, who is this crazy person in the room? Please exit stage left. Or two, what if she's right? What if we team up with her and create an opportunity with her, to work with her, to have this potential to reach 1 billion women around the world? And thank God, in what was a 30-minute meeting turned into a 3-hour meeting. We handshook on a deal, and 3 years later, we literally, starting from zero, had built a $1 billion business, a $250 million fund. We reached over 600 million people in 1 year, and that all started because there were 2 people that said, you know what, we're going to come together and believe in faith that we are authentically called to do this, and we're going to layer in the business opportunities to see what we can make happen together. So I'm just here and so proud to be part of all of this with you, to just say, true. When I say I'm covered in goosebumps, I am so home, because anything is possible. And on that ride coming over here tonight, I'm praying, I'm like, of course it's at Catholic University, and of course there are all these amazing executives coming from all these great corporations. This is our time to walk forward in the world with what we are authentically called to do, to serve other people in faith, connect with the opportunities and the resources to make that happen, and anything is possible. So I am just so proud to be with you. I am proud of this new initiative that Brian has set up. We have set up a CEO roundtable, an executive roundtable, where we'd like to invite those of you who are interested to join us in this cause, where we're figuring out the details, I'll be honest about that, in terms of when our next meeting is going to be. But we'd love to come together with those of you who want to do this with us, to continue to really do what we're doing today and tomorrow, and just continue these conversations in a more formalized way, and take this seed of this opportunity and continue to bring it throughout the world together. So I'm just so excited to be here with you. Brian, Kent, the whole team, Sujay, my love, I love all of you. My love, you are my love. So many, just thank you for being here. Please join us. And we're really excited to now recognize some of the incredible work happening with the corporations that are here. Thank you.
Stay up here, yeah. So joining us on the stage now will be Rear Admiral Margaret Grin Kibun, United States Navy retired, the first Chief of Chaplains of the United States Navy, who was a woman, and is a woman, sorry. Still am. And she's now the owner of Virtue in Practice, and she'll be handing out awards. Do you just want to say hello?
Hello.
Thank you.
And thank you. Seriously, thank you so very much for taking the time to be here. You come from such a wide variety of experiences and a breadth of understanding of the importance that faith brings to your organization. I have been privileged to serve as a Navy chaplain for 35 years, and I can tell you we get it. Probably more than you think we do. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. But the sense that I have from you is this understanding that diversity is a strengthening, is a mission-capable element to who you are. It influences your awareness of how things play out. It influences your ability to move things forward because you have so many different perspectives coming in to hone each other as iron sharpens iron. That with that, you have the ability to increase not only your productivity, which is important to many of you, of course, but you actually increase the breadth and depth of the people who are serving you. And what a gift you give to them to allow them to be their whole selves. So thank you so very much for what you do.
Thank you. So, yeah, stay up. And you'll hear much more tomorrow. Thank you. And Wade Horn from Deloitte, chairman at Deloitte, is also part of this nascent roundtable pending final approval from Deloitte. Wade, would you like to say a word?
So first of all, I think I'm the newbie in this room. I literally did not know this group existed until about 2 or 3 days before Christmas when I got a call out of the blue from Brian. And about 2 hours later, I was convicted that I had to do something to support this. You know, I've spent time in government, I've spent time in nonprofits, I've spent time in business, and I've always been a strong supporter of diversity and inclusion. And that too often it's been my experience that when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we talk about lots of things and lots of things that add into diversity and inclusion, all of which are important except for bringing your faith perspective to work. And what I'm very, very encouraged by tonight and hearing people speak is that there seems to be a growing sense and movement that faith is an important piece of this thing we call diversity and inclusion, which is so important for our society, for our government, and for business. So it's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for the call. And I look forward to meeting a lot of very new and hopefully longtime friends.
So the Ready Index that we published and that I already embarrassed my daughter about for having helped put together, it was launched this year, but we're going to continue this year after year. This year we just did the Fortune 100, so companies like Salesforce and Texas Instruments didn't get a chance to compete. So next year, so the index itself, this year we rated companies based on what their public profile was on faith inclusion, on their websites, on their employee affinity groups. Next year it'll expand. Tomorrow we'll have a conference that talks about that a bit more to dig deeper into companies, get more nuance and depth to that. But tonight we want to, 5 of the top 10 companies have representatives here. So we had top 10 companies. Some that aren't able to be here have invited me to come out to their companies and present the awards there. They weren't able to come, such as Google, so I'll be there in April, and I'll come visit other friends in San Francisco. But in order, just because I know I'm going to save American Airlines for last because they're going to mob the stage. And so to sort of increase by the size of the delegation, American Express. So I already told Heather, do you need a hand? I already told a bit of Heather's story, but Heather, we're so proud and, here we go. To present this to you on behalf of the Religious Freedom and Business Foundation, recognizing the tremendous work of American Express in promoting diversity and inclusion and including religion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. Sure. Just really, really excited to be here, and I'm so glad that this event took place, all the people here who, pulled together to make this happen. And, I was thinking about what you said earlier about, what's your why? And I really feel like I'm very blessed that I know what my purpose is. And that is really to expand workplace ministry, and not even just in the United States, but around the world, So really, it's just an honor and privilege to be able to do it. Thank you very much.
And I think, Ingrid, you want to present the next one. Oh. This is for Dell.
Oh, all right.
So Dell is, can I say, relatively new into this field, but charging hard. Yes. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So Marquis and Glenda, if you'd like to say a word on behalf of Dell.
Love to. Are you sure? Well, thank you all so much. We are fired up getting to be here. It's such an honor pioneering and getting to give voice to this crucial community within Dell Technologies. We're actually 6 companies in one. We started as a PC company, acquired EMC. Things have just exploded. So goes technology, right? But we are just so honored to be here and learn from all of you. We're humbled by the experience, so thank you so much. This is such a privilege. We didn't know y'all existed until a week ago, and we found out we won, and we're like, an award? Of course. But genuinely, we're making history, so we don't take tonight and tomorrow lightly, and we're so honored to sharpen ourselves against all of you and learn from best practices. So thank you.
Let's take a picture.
I need a hug. I just love your energy so much.
Okay, one organized picture here.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I'm so excited. Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Me too.
Thank you so much.
She's from Dell.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And next, Tyson Food has been such an inspiration to many people. We've already met Imam Abdullah, you'll come back up, please. And of course, Karen Diefendorf, who I think many people in this room know. She shares a background with Admiral Kibun. She was a command chaplain colonel in the United States Army for many years. And now she leads a new force of chaplains at Tyson Food, working for spiritual empowerment and faith. So would you like to say a word? We'll give the mic to Karen.
You're inviting a preacher to speak.
I know. I'm gonna stay close. So I can
I'll have a few more remarks tomorrow, but in a time and place where business is often concerned about return on investment, I'm very proud that John Tyson, as our chairman of the board, when he interviewed me 3 years ago, and I just happened to ask as a part of that process, how is having chaplains in our plants impacted, the bottom line? And much to my surprise, and for which I'm very grateful, he simply said, I don't know and I don't care. I'm sure I was as surprised even now as I say that, as I was then. But he went on to say, it's the right thing to do for the right reasons. This is just one more way in which we take care of our people. And life comes with us in the door. And I've been saying that ever since I took the seat as director. We all know that life comes with us. We can't leave it in the parking lot. And that can be very difficult. And probably 70% of our chaplains' time out on the floor of a plant or in the break room or wherever they're meeting folks probably has a grief element to it. That's just kind of a swag guess. But grief has lots of components. Sometimes it's not getting that promotion. Sometimes it's having to put your loved one on hospice care and you still got to come to work. There's a lot of tough stuff that every single one of us, because we're human beings, have to deal with on any given day. And I am so honored and so privileged to get to be the director over about 100 chaplains across 25 states. And, it's amazing. I pinch myself every day. I thought being an Army chaplain was the be-all, end-all. I was a paratrooper. I got to tell you, we have a different. I probably landed on my head one too many times, but I got to tell you, being the director of the chaplaincy for Tyson Foods is a whole nother dimension of telling the world that faith matters, and we don't need to be ashamed that it matters. And so, thank you, Brian, for bringing this to the forefront and allowing all of us to participate in this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, my wife works for the Navy and my two sons work for the Navy. And when we can get Army and Navy on the same stage and be on the same team, that's diversity. So next, we'd like to invite all those who are with Dell to come forward and be recognized for the great work you're doing. I said Dell. I said Intel. Didn't I say Intel? I thought Intel. Intel. No wonder. It was like another one of my jokes. It just fell flat. So I just have to say that, okay, Intel does not even own an airline, and they got a guy from Costa Rica to come here tonight.
That's right.
I mean, do you want to speak? Sure. Okay. So, yeah. So Craig Carter from Intel has a few words to say, and what a great group you've brought. Thank you.
Well, thanks. And on behalf of Intel Corporation, over 100,000 people around the world in over 50 different countries, we've been on this journey for about 25 years. And I'm really excited that we're all up here together. We have reps from our Jewish community and also from our Baha'i community, Muslim and Christian also. Our Sikh friends and atheist friends weren't able to make it, actually. But we're really excited to be receiving this reward and what the future holds for all this. And it was said earlier about feeling at home. I think someone said that. And that's really what it feels like. It's just been amazing. Even this week alone, there's been a number of different stories I've heard of different very senior vice presidents and all the way down to a person who opens the door for people about, thank you for doing this. It's helping me to feel like I can bring my whole self to work. It's just wonderful. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't know how to get us all in a picture, but come on up.
We'll squeeze on in.
Short in the front.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brian. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you.
I shake some hands over here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I'm sure that American Airlines won't mind if I say I saved the best for last. So American Airlines, and please come forward. We need a bigger stage.
I know.
Wait, we need a bigger stage?
Yes.
We all get up?
I'm going to give them.
You're good, okay. Okay.
Wow, this is exciting. So while we get ourselves situated on stage, at American Airlines, our motto is, our why is caring for people on life's journey. And we realize that when our passengers come aboard our aircraft, our team members come to work, it is important for them to feel like they can tell their story. I listened today, I took notes, and I heard some amazing stories. And so I am so proud to be up here with my peers and team members just to share our story once again. This is a huge milestone in our story, and we're going to continue to share it with not only our team members, but our customers too. So as you're traveling home, on American Airlines aircraft, feel free to peruse the catalog for our Sparkle Reel, which highlights the work that we do within our employee business resource groups. And you will see some very really nice stories that are told through that Sparkle Reel. So with that being said, I want to leave you with this. My pastor once told me, people don't have to be nice. And when they are nice, they don't have to be nice to you. So we are really grateful for the Religious Freedom Business Foundation for being nice to American Airlines.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you, everyone.
Who's got the picture?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So as American Airlines flies back to their tables, okay, finally, a laugh. I'm going to give a brief preview of tomorrow. The different people you've heard from tonight, there will be more speaking. We have also speakers from PayPal. Of course, Sue Warnicki from Salesforce will be giving the keynote, the amazing story behind FaithForce. And many others will be sharing their company stories tomorrow. But I wanted to highlight two things. One is we have several people in here that are corporate trainers with our foundation, including Ambassador Sujay. So if we could get Ambassador Sujay. We also have Deborah Paul and Christy Anastas from the UK and Palestine, and Paul Lambert, I'm not sure where Paul is, right here. And then we're working with the Freedom Forum Institute. If Jean and Ben and Sabrina, I don't know where everybody's sitting, if they're here, if they could stand up. So these are all folks, part of our team. If you want to connect with them, please do. And I'm going to call one more person to the stage, and then it's a free-for-all and dessert. Ken Taylor. So he didn't know I was going to call him up, I don't think. So Ken is our representative in Tokyo. And every 2 years, together with the United Nations Global Compact, which many of your companies belong to, it's the corporate social responsibility organization at the United Nations, working together with the UN Global Compact, we give awards to business leaders that are advancing interfaith understanding, religious freedom, and peace around the world. Award winners have come from all 5 continents. Nominees have been from dozens of countries. And so we invite you to nominate your CEOs. These are awards for the people, you could say, that have given permission for all of this to happen, and in various ways have been in varying ways been the sponsors even in some of the companies behind this, because this really is building peace. This is you can think of yourself not just as a diversity initiative, but it's a peace initiative. So Ken, if you can come up, tomorrow we're going to have a session on if you want to nominate your CEO. Ken will be there, several others will be there, and the students at the tables have a card on the Global Business and Interfaith Peace Awards. So that we have 2 cards, and if you want to nominate your CEO or CEO from another company for this award, you can. And so Ken will be there to talk about all of this. And I especially wanted to bring Ken up because we're going to show you 2 one-minute videos, and then it's dessert time. The first video is about this overall initiative. Sharon Tabor, where is Sharon? She's been instrumental in helping to make these videos, and we partner with Empower Women Media in these. But the first one, her daughter actually shot in Korea last year at the awards. And then the second one is a song that Kyoji Ono, a composer in Japan, wrote. He and I worked on the words, the lyrics together. And Ken is the music director. And in his studio, you'll see some shots of the studio in that. And it's a song that we recorded. We now have a gospel version of it. And I'm in discussions, I'll say this off the record for any journalists in here, but with the Mormon Tabernacle, no, it's now the Tabernacle Choir in Temple Square, otherwise used to be known as the Mormon Tabernacle, maybe to record a version of it, and some other groups to raise support for people with disabilities since our awards happen at the Paralympics. So anyhow, Ken is here. I don't know if you want to say, he actually has started and leads 70 gospel choirs around Tokyo with its Japanese folks. Do you want to say a word?
Yes. Well, I just want to say this is a preface of what I think we're going to have in Japan. So please come this year, actually, and would love to host you. Kite kudasai, Nihon ni kite kudasai. That means please come to Japan, and we'd love to host you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so we'll play the 2 videos, and then it's dessert time, and then free time, please mingle. But please come back tomorrow morning for breakfast at 8 o'clock, and then the interfaith prayer will be at 8:30 in the St. Michael, sorry, help me with it, chapel. This is just St. Michael Chapel at the Bush School of Business. I think the only business school, at least in the United States, that has its own chapel. And they have a stained glass window to a businessman who's being nominated, being put forward for beatification to become a saint. So, I mean, it's been alluded to, this is saintly work, and this business school recognizes that, and so please, if you can, we'll have all the different faiths represented, or not all, but good representatives of different faiths helping to lead us in that prayer. So again, thanks, Ken, and the invitation's real. Come join us in Japan. And now the 2 short videos. It's important to bring business leaders together and have them share their stories. And that's what these awards do. It recognizes business leaders who are making a difference in the world. They share their stories, and then that becomes an inspiration for other business leaders as well. So these awards happen every 2 years at the beginning of the Paralympic Games. The event largely focuses on peace and then the way interfaith understanding can contribute to that. Then finally we look at practical questions, and we hope to have some principles coming out of how faith and spirituality can contribute to more ethical and sustainable business around the world.